Thank you all for being here. We're so thankful that you have decided to spend a portion of your Sunday with us. And we always say it does not go unnoticed that you have taken the time to be here with us. Now, today we're going to talk about women of the Bible. But as Mama Miss Keyton, Sister Keyton has said, we're not just going to talk about women of the Bible. We're going to specifically talk about the real first lady of the Bible. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I'm sure she's going to enlighten us as to whom is the real first lady of the Bible. Without women, let's be real about it, the world just wouldn't be the same. This is another testament of God's infinite wisdom. Jesus was brought into the world by a strong woman. And you know what? Even at the beginning of humanity, God put a woman on earth to accompany a man. There are so many examples in the Bible of women showing their strength and their ability to humble themselves in the midst of difficult circumstances. We see examples of strong women of God functioning during hardships, in life's most fearful moments, and also in happy times. God made women in his image for his specific reason, and his word reminds us by studying the power of such women such as Mary, such as Rachel, Rebecca, Ruth, and others. Ladies, we have been uniquely designed to be versatile and to be strong. What I want you all to remember, we need to walk in that boldly because we are God's workmanship. Now, Mama Sister Keyton, Mama Sister Sarah Keyton, the class is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies. I'm just, what can I say? It's always exciting to study God's Word. And I just want to say thank you for Roz for inviting me to share a little bit with you. Some of you probably have already know most of what I'm going to say, but you know it'll be okay to hear it again. I just want to say thank you for being here, and for my closest Boulder Crest sisters, thank you for being here. We got a second dose of Dinah this morning, and I know you all were excited. I got quite a few text messages while we were listening to the sermon online. As Rod said, women are important. Of course, we know that. That just goes without. we know that. We know that. And however, sometimes it just, we don't always realize it, but somewhere in the recesses of our mind, we know that. But today I want to talk about, we talk about the First Lady. We got the First Lady of the United States. We got, some of us think we got the First Lady of the church. And I said some of us because all of us don't believe she's really the First Lady. And First Lady probably in some other cases. So, but I want to take you back to the real First Lady. And that lady is Eve. And most of this is coming from Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3. And so, and I will probably give you some more scriptures as we go along, but you can go back and reread that again, because I know all of us have read that. I know we have. But we're going to talk about the real First Lady and why I'm calling her the First Lady. Because one, she was the first lady to come from the body of a man. So if you got some pencil and paper, you can write these down. She's the first lady to come from the body of a man. And guess what? Nobody else did. Every other human since then has been born of a woman. Even Jesus Christ. She was the first lady created for man. Someone stated that she was, well, the Bible calls her a helpmeet. And someone stated that helpmeet is the most frequently misunderstood term in the Bible. And I probably agree. But it is important to note that helpmeet in most Bibles is 2 words, not one. And some biblical scholars, they change helpmeet to helpmate, 2 different words. Contrary to this teaching, I submit to you that helpmeet does not translate to helpmate. The phrase translated as helpmeet comes from 2 Hebrew words, Ezah and Kenegdo. Ezah means help. Ezah means help. And let me just interject something here. If you're going to help somebody, you got to be able to do something. It suggests that the individual has power. Ezah is used 21 times in the Old Testament, and it always describes a person with the capacity allowing one to help, to protect, or aid. In most of these cases, Ezra describes the way God offers help to rescue humankind. And if you need some scriptures, you can go to Exodus 18:4, Deuteronomy 33:29, Psalms 119:9-11, Psalms 121:2, and Hosea 13:9. And the other part of that, connecto, means corresponding to or opposite to. It describes 2 things that are next to each other and complementary to each other, but different from each other. So when you put these 2 terms together, we see that Ezah, Kenegdo, which is helpmeet, suggests that God created Eve and a counterpart to Adam with the power to rescue and serve. And y'all know we do that anyway. How many times have we helped them out? And it's not being inferior. Third thing, she's the first lady to have a desire for knowledge. I thought that was interesting. Go to Genesis 3:6 and 7. She said, look, and I'm paraphrasing, let me find out what's going to really happen if I eat this fruit. What's going to really happen? She found out too, didn't she? Women have taken that quest for knowledge to a whole new level, especially African American women, and that includes women in the COC. Women in every phase of life and the workforce have attained degrees ranging from bachelor's to doctorate. And if you look around in the congregation where you are, you probably find plenty of women who have doctorate degrees. You probably got medical doctors. You probably got women who have master's degrees, women who are writing books, women who are doing like Ross. They got their own network going. They can do Zoom and Facebook all at the same time. We have taken that quest for knowledge to a whole new level.
Amen.
It is said by the National Statistical Association and the National Center for Education that black women are the most educated. Oh, and aren't you just happy? We get some positive sometimes. So normally when it's about black, it's negative. Black women are the most educated group in the United States. But even with this stunning positive statistics, here's what Essence Magazine had to say about women. We are still labeled as welfare queens. We're still labeled as over-aggressive. We're still labeled as baby mamas, men haters, angry black women. And I think someone said that one evangelical preacher called Kamala Harris a Jezebel. See, even without that education, you're still having problems. Eve was the first lady in an arranged marriage, but it was a match made in heaven. Aren't you glad about that? Eve was the first wife. She was the first lady to be naked and not ashamed, and the first lady to be naked and ashamed. She was the first lady to lose her innocence because of her innocence. That reminded me of Donna. She innocently went going over there and look what happened. She was the first lady seamstress, but she soon learned her style of clothing was not going to cut it with God. Them ladies won't do. She was the first lady to have her eyes opened about God, about her nakedness. How naked are you before God? Do you feel uncomfortable sometimes in the presence of the Lord? You feel like, you know what, I need to hide these sins before I go to church today. Adam and Eve's nakedness caused them to immediately think negative about themselves. Sin in the face of God can alter the purity of your thoughts. If you don't believe it, go back and read what Adam and Eve did. Their disobedience distorted their relationship with God and each other. They couldn't even look at each other again the way they had before. And on top of that, they were afraid. Naked and physically exposed before God, spiritually and mentally. And my question to you is, how often are you naked? She was the first lady to be deceived. And there are some who use these verses to conclude that Eve was that women are more easily deceived than men. Therefore, they should be excluded from the position of authority over men in all circumstances. But here is what I have to say. If we believe that's what the scripture is saying, we might need to go back and study it again. Here's what one biblical scholar had to say. He said to assert that women are more emotional, more gullible, and less rational is a destructive teaching based on the misunderstanding of the biblical text. Here's what I say. The world and the church should be grateful for women and whatever we have to offer. I suggest to you, don't turn away the precious gifts that God has given to women to help the world grow and the church grow. Eve was the first lady to hide from God, or tried to hide from God. They grabbed the first leaf they could find and covered themselves to escape their shame. And guess what? We've been trying to hide from God ever since. Read Psalm 139. God knows everything. He is everywhere. And here's your aha moment. He is wherever you are going when you get there. He's already there. She was the first lady to be involved in the beginning of the redemption process. That made me feel good. She was the first lady blamed for the first sin. And we got biblical scholars and men who are students of the Bible. They use this to justify the unjust treatment of women from then and even into now. They claim that Eve is the cause of sin entering into the world. And for that, all the way down from ancient times to 2022, we ought to still be punished. I think it's a bit too long. Women had no voice, no rights. They could be sold, bought, traded, abused, used as concubine, placed in harem, and put in many other bad situations. It was communicated to women that you are nothing without a husband. And they went on to say male children. They didn't say children. Don't even go have no more girls. We want you to have some boys so we can keep this thing going. But here's what I say. This was not God's intention for women to be treated.
You're muted, Sister Keyton.
Where was I? It was communicated to women that you are nothing without a husband and male children. Most importantly, this was not God's intention of how women were to be treated. We see that throughout the Bible. But some women experience abuse by some men simply because it is a learned misogynistic behavior. They learn to do it. And it was passed from men to men, from men to women, and women to their sons. Paul relates that sin entered the world through one man, Romans 5:12. He goes on to say that death reigned from the time of Adam, Romans 5:13. Paul teaches that as in Adam all die, so in Christ all will be made alive. I'm so glad about that. She was the first lady blamed for the disobedience of a man. And I'm going to say that again. Put that one in your spirit. First lady to be blamed for the disobedience of a man. When a woman is raped, many times she gets blamed. When men lust after women, women are blamed. They tell women, you got too much cleavage, dress too tight, dress too short. Men blame women when the woman is abused by them. You caused me to make. You the reason I beat you. Crazy. If she had only done this, or if she had only done that, so much so that women many times blame themselves. School create dress codes for girls to divert male attention. Some biblical scholars have said
You're muted, Sister Keyton.
What are y'all doing that y'all keep muting me? Obviously somebody don't want me to say this. Okay, I don't know where I was.
You were saying that they say things like, about the dress.
All right. When a woman is raped, so if I'm repeating, y'all just have to bear with me. I don't know what's going on with Big. Well, it's Satan. He's trying to say, don't be saying that, girl. With Satan, step on back. Let me finish. When a woman is raped, many times she gets blamed. When men lust after women, women are blamed. Here's some of the things that they say: too much cleavage, dress too tight, dress too short. And someone said in the class last week, my dress is not a yes. I got that. Men blame women when the woman is abused by them. If only she had done this, or if only she had done that. So much so that women sometimes blame themselves. Schools create dress codes for girls to divert male attention. Some biblical scholars have said that King David wouldn't have committed adultery with his neighbor Uriah's wife if Bathsheba hadn't been bathing in his line of vision. Go figure. Men blame women for being irresponsible during sex, leading to unwanted pregnancies. If you had done something, then you would not have gotten pregnant. But here's what I gotta say. Pregnancy is rarely the woman's fault. You find that interesting, don't you? In fact, women can really only get pregnant a few days out of every month. On the other hand, men have the ability to impregnate a woman every day of the month and more than one time a day.
Amen.
Whew. The people who have to live with the consequences of all of these pregnancies are mostly women. Jesus taught that lust is committing adultery in one's heart. Matthew 18:9. If he says, if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out. It's better to get into heaven with one eye than not at all. To me, this leaves no doubt who's responsible for whose behavior. It does not say if someone else causes you to stumble, pluck out their eye. If they pluck out your own. In many Christian circles today, we subliminally teach that women and girls are responsible for managing boys and men's sexual desires. We are not. They're telling us, don't be the object of temptation. Don't tempt him in what you wear and how you carry yourself. So here's my question to you. If this is true, what is the responsibility of the man? I mean, he just supposed to walk around and say, okay, don't tempt me, because if you do, you're going to be in trouble. If women clothes causes a man to sin, they tell you, you can't wear that. Johnny gone, whatever. So my question is, how do I know what clothes turn a man on? I don't know. When I'm shopping, am I supposed to keep the man in mind? I don't think so. Here's what the Bible said according to me. Now, you'll read it for you, so it'll be according to you. That's right. Bible says, dress modestly. That's an act of disobedience to God. So when you go shopping, think about what God would like, not the man. Because if you think about what the man would like, aren't you putting that in front of what God? Okay. One lady told me, she said her husband has heard her daughter to model on Saturday night what they plan to wear on Sunday to make sure a man would not lust. So I just kind of explained to her in the sweetest, humblest voice I could. I probably won't be doing that on Saturday night. Aren't you putting too much on the man? Do what's right. Because when Adam told God that the reason he ate of the fruit was because the woman that God had given to him, God didn't say, okay. He didn't say, okay, well, let me just go punish her. If you go to Genesis 3:17, God punished him. Of course, he punished him, but he punished them too. Here's what I have to say. It is never the sole responsibility of women to control male impulses. That's your problem. It's my responsibility as a woman to do what's right. Now, if you fall up under that, good. If you don't, you got a problem with God. Men are responsible for their own thoughts, not women. Okay, let me get off of that too. She was the first lady to be clothed by God. So you know she had the right stuff on. Get clothed by God and you won't have to worry about the maid. Okay, let me move on. She was the first lady to be evicted from her home. And she was evicted right along with him. And
You're muted again, Sister Keyton. It seems like when someone keeps coming in, it's for some reason it keeps muting you, and I'm not sure. So we're gonna just really have to make sure that when someone come in, we, okay.
Ross, can I be of assistance? Sarah, I think you're pressing your space bar, and when you press your space bar, it will mute
It's
you.
not her. It's not her, because when people are unmuted, and they're speaking, I'm automatically muting them, but they're underneath her. So I'm trying to get them muted so they won't interrupt her, and I'm accidentally muting her. So the whole purpose of when people come on, I'm muting them because they're not muting themselves. So when she gets muted, she's just it's me muting her by accident, trying to mute everyone else that's coming in.
Okay. Could proceed, Sister Keyton.
all right, if I backtrack too far, y'all it's not my fault. First lady to be clothed by God. And I said that was the best dress. So don't you want to be clothed by God? Clothed by God. First lady to be evicted from her home when her husband was evicted. You'll find that in Genesis 3:23 and 24. And I said this gives new meaning to cleaving and leaving and cleaving. And then I thought, you know what? If my husband was evicted, would I go with him? So look, we're gonna both be standing outside. But Eve knew she had to go. What else could she do? Stay in the garden, feed the animals, and take care of the garden, do the job that God gave Adam? No. She did what was right. So she was the first lady to be evicted. Eve was the first mother. And she was the first mother to experience pain because of her children's behavior. First mother to lose one child at the hands of another. And Eve lets us know that children, some of them grown, can put you on your knees and keep you there. She was the first mother to express joy at the birth of a son, and she called that son Seth, who was in the lineage of Christ. And I probably said enough first here. Just go back and read again, because you talking about the real first lady. She was the real first lady. But here's some breaking news for you. Eve was really not a bad or a rebellious woman. She was deceived. She was influenced by what she heard and what she saw, and what she was tricked into believing she wanted. And subsequently, she exerted her influence on Adam. I think Eve was a good woman who made some bad decisions, and her decisions caused a paradigm shift in humanity. And it was the catalyst that propelled the redemptive truth. Her decision was so powerful that we are experiencing the results today, thousands of years later. More than 4,000 years after God made the promise In Genesis 3:15, the Son of Man, the Son of God rather, became a man. If only Eve knew. The Bible reveals to us that women are not only equal to men, according to Galatians 3:28, but are sanctioned for special honor. Put that in your spirit, 1 Peter 3:7. The command in Ephesians 5:25 through 31 is for husbands to sacrificially love their wives, mirroring how Christ loved the church. Women were and women still are a vital entity in Jesus' ministry. So God uses women, ladies and girls, in many ways. God chose women to be the vessels to carry, birth, and nurture future generations. When God wanted a prophet in Israel, he chose a woman, Hannah. When he wanted the promised child, Isaac, he chose Sarah. When he wanted someone to birth the forerunner of the Messiah, he chose Elizabeth. When he wanted the mother of his only begotten son, he chose a woman, Mary. When he wanted the words, "He is risen," proclaimed to the disciples, he chose a woman, Mary Magdalene. When he wanted the laws of inheritance changed in the Old Testament, he chose the daughters of Zelophehad. When he wanted a song leader, get that, y'all. When he wanted a song leader of praise and purpose, he chose Miriam. When he wanted to show the seriousness of lying, he chose Sapphira. When he wanted us to know that the crumbs on the master's table can get us to the bread of life, he chose the Canaanite woman. When he wanted us to know the power of a faithful wife, he chose Sarah. When he wanted other women of God to teach women to be women of God, he chose all the faces that I'm looking at. He chose all the faces that you're looking at. Women. And so I trust you have a little more knowledge of the real First Lady and how being the First Lady in many instances can and has impacted lives. Just know this, ladies. Many of us are like Eve. We're mothers, we're grandmothers, we have husbands, we have children, some of them who are obedient and some of them who are rebellious even though they're grown. We have been deceived, at least I have. And at some points in our life, I've been tempted by Satan. And I don't always obey God. And guess what else? We're like Eve. We get the scripture twisted sometimes. And above all that, we try to hide from God in some way. So just know, Eve, the First Lady, has passed on a whole lot of stuff to us. And so I say to you, may the God of all creation continue to give us life, hope, and the ability to continue to share his word. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. That's why I call her Mama, Sister Keyton. Thank you for that. I so appreciate that. She deserves that. I heard so much there, but I got a few questions I want to ask the ladies just to spark a conversation with the ladies and you too, please, Sister Keyton, to give your input too. But first is about the gifts that we have as women. You know, we have so much power. Okay. And
Yes,
those gifts, I'm not talking about the spiritual gifts per se, we think, those different ones in the Bible. What are some of the things that we as women, that we have been blessed to be able to do? I want the ladies you can unmute or raise your hand, I should say, so we can make sure everyone gets heard. What are some of those things that women are that's uniquely for us that you don't see it was just been instilled in us. Let me just put it that way. Can I get someone to maybe, and you can answer, Sister Keyton, or one of the ladies want to raise their hand? They can give some input there.
Well, I'll say some of the things we as women can see from a different perspective. I think some of us are a little bit more courageous when it comes to discussing things, because from what I have gathered with my limited data, so I don't want to paint everybody with one brush. You get women together and you can have a super discussion. They're a little bit more open. They'll talk. They'll share. And that's not the way it is with men. And sometimes when you put men and women together, you really, it's almost like we're not going to say anything. We're just going to let it go. So I think we're a little bit more courageous. We're a little bit more, and I think that's what God has put in us, to be able to share and talk with each other and to glean from each other.
Okay. All right. And some of the things, I agree, what you said. And also, too, just we're great multitaskers. And you mentioned also earlier the intuition that we have.
Oh.
When it comes to my children used to always say, how do you know? Just know you.
Well, I think you know because God said He created us as a helpmeet and easer. So you in order for me to help somebody, I gotta know a little bit of something that you don't know, or that you don't recognize that you know. So I just think that's what God has put in us, and I think He has given us the ability. Oh, because when you study women in the Old Testament, it's like Deborah with Barak. When he said, I'm not going if you don't go. She didn't call him a weasel. She said, let's roll. Because I got it. You come on. Because she could have easily look, get back, Louisa. You scared, I'll go do this by myself. But she didn't. She She was so humble because, when you know you got it, you ain't got to be going all crazy something and talking about getting back. Just go do it. And tell them to come on. As they say, that's all I got.
Also, too, many of us, that tolerance for pain, whether that pain is childbirth, the loss of a child, the loss of a mate, we can, even though I'm not saying it is not difficult, because we never truly, I don't think we ever truly overcome when we have those great loss. But we, as women, we're able to adapt still. Okay, so that's another, that goes against to the strength that God has put in us. We just keep going. Like they said, the Energizer Bunny, we just keep going. Sometimes to our detriment, though. Unfortunately, we don't always. We had a lesson earlier, Sister Jackie. You probably remember we were talking about that earlier. That with sometimes we keep going so much and keep putting out so much that we put out overextend ourselves. At least I know I do, and to the point that I just drop. So but yes. So does anyone want to add to some of those gifts that we were talking about?
I think what women understand is that hard doesn't mean hopeless. That's what we are. That's what we get. All the way from slavery. It was hard for me to allow the master to break me. It was hard. But when I have this baby, I'm going to take care of it. It was hard for them to see their man carted out to go make some old baby down at the next plantation. but they did it. It was hard for me to put the Caucasian child on one breast and my black baby on the other breast, and to make sure that those breasts don't get intermingled. Go figure that. That was hard. But somewhere in their head, to me, they had a hope that somehow I'm gonna get past this. It's hard when women are abandoned by their children. Some of them say, you know what? I'm gonna make a man out of him even though I don't have a man. See, that's what I see in some women. Now that might not be all of them. Yes, I do. So I'm just going on my limited data, but anyway. I think we understand that hard doesn't mean hopeless.
That's right. That's right. Now, ladies, this is an open forum. Like I said, if we want to make sure, because sometimes, just sometimes, that question or thought that you have in your mind, one of your other sisters maybe is thinking the same thing. So I don't want you to feel, if you want to take your camera off, you don't want to be on camera, that's okay. But if you have a question, ask those. So this is why she's here, because anybody that know Mama Keyton knows she's a wealth of knowledge. She ain't gonna say it, but I'm telling you, she's a wealth of knowledge. Okay. So if you have anything that you want to say, just come on in. Okay. Yeah, CG agree with me. That's right, CG. Go ahead.
That's my girl. That's my bonus daughter.
Oh yeah, that's one of my bonus daughters too. We're gonna have to fight over that one though, Sister Keyton. That's my bonus daughter. I love me some CG. I'm just playing, y'all. Okay, go ahead, Sister Lorick.
Good afternoon, ladies. I did come in late, and I had a question, Sister Keyton, because I wasn't really understanding the concept of the song leading. Also, because the sound kept going in and out, I felt like I might have missed the build up to that or the circumstances of that concerning song leading and women's song leading.
I didn't really have a lead up to it. When the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, Miriam led the song. That's all. So there was really no lead up to it. But I will step out on a limb, and if it breaks, Rob's gonna help me back up. I don't. I don't profess to know it all, so let me just say that too. You see, I'm giving all these prerequisites before I make this statement. I know the Bible tells us to sing. The Bible does not tell us to choose a song leader. From my experience in the church, somewhere along the way, we decided to have a song leader, and we decided it would be a man. I don't know of any scripture that even implies that it should be a man. But I was not saying that women should lead songs. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying Miriam led the song. That's just all there was. She led the song when they crossed the Red Sea. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted somewhere to start my study, and then you gave me that. Thank you.
Okay.
May I?
I'm sorry. I was gonna go ahead, ma'am. You go ahead.
My name is Genevieve. And I live in Virginia. I think about when we look at First Timothy, chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, "I will therefore that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubting." And then we go over into Corinthians and we see the formula for what God has designed as far as worship, as far as leading. So, today when we worship, we know that that's the standard that God has given us. But as far as a woman, I often think of Abigail and the role that she played when she helped David, as far as not making the choice that he was about to make, to seek vengeance on her husband. And the fact that, the Bible says clearly that her husband, he was a foolish man, but she showed a lot of wisdom there in coming forth, approaching David in the humble way, like Sister Keyton talked about, and diverting a situation that would have been, really terrible for her family.
That's a beautiful example. Very beautiful example. The true definition of helpmeet. She really was a helpmeet.
This is Cheryl Mawar. I have a question for Sister Keyton. How you doing?
Hey, Cheryl, how are you?
I'm well, love. Good to hear you. Great lesson. My question to you is, what is your stance on preachers' wives being called First Lady?
We just got through with real First Lady. If she can't
I agree.
I'm just joking. You led me into that. But I don't have a. I'm trying to straddle the fence on that. I mean, if that's what you want to call your first lady, she may be doing all the first in your congregation. She just might be the real first lady. She might be the first and the first and the first and all these things that you need to happen in your congregation. She might be that. So I really don't have a decision about it. I could take it. I'm okay if you're calling your lady first lady. I'm okay if you're not calling her first lady. Because I base it really on what I see, and it's an individual decision. And when I grew up in the church. My dad was a Church of Christ minister. My mother was never called first lady. I guess in the last 10, 12, maybe 15 years, that term has come about within the church. Why? Maybe you just need to ask the person why are you calling them first lady? What have they done first? Maybe they have. And then they may realize, well, you know what? She ain't really the first lady. Maybe I just need to call her sister, whatever.
Well, I'm not experiencing that, but I see it thrown around from time to time. But it often makes me wonder, if the preacher's wife is the first lady, where does that leave the rest of the sisters? What's my number?
Yeah,
But I haven't experienced that at my congregation, fortunately. But I see it thrown around, and I know we've adapted it from the world. Instead of us being the leaders, being the example, other churches are being the leaders. They're leading us. We're following the trend. So that's why I asked that question. But thank you. I appreciate it. God bless you. Give Brother Keith my love, please.
I will. I'm sorry I didn't have a definitive answer for you.
No, that's good. You did good. I appreciate it.
I think, we probably have several. Hold on one second, Sister Lord. We have several ministers' wives up here that Sister Lorick is one. I think she's ready to say something, myself as well. But I know I had to learn just pretty much what Cheryl is saying right there, is that I had to learn to not take that in an offensive way. And I don't know if offensive is the word. I don't know. That may be a little too strong, because I feel the same way. But I don't get offended when someone says it anymore. At first, I'm like, no, I'm not, no. Because to me, it sets you above, and I feel that we're all brothers and sisters, even the minister. Okay. I believe that we're all striving for the same thing. I am no closer, because I'm a minister's wife, I am no closer to receiving my crown than Susie, Jackie, Sheila, than anybody else. So I prefer not to be called that, but I don't get offended, because people say it with honor. They're saying it with respect. So I had to learn to understand that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sister Lorick. You were going to add something.
Like you, I came across the terminology when I wasn't a minister's wife. I was actually an elder's wife. And it seemed to me to put on a pressure, expectation that some people aren't ready to adjust to, especially when you're adjusting to being an elder's wife to a minister's wife who is planning a congregation. There was enough pressure there in terms of where you fit, how many ministries you should work in without the addition of someone else's expectation. And that's the only struggle I have with that terminology. It puts an expectation on you. Often the expectation is somebody else has defined and not you. So that I'm very careful. I don't beat someone up. I said, my name is Andrea. I go there. My name is Andrea. That's my name. That's who I am. Imperfect human Andrea running this Christian race the same way you are. So that's the only cautionary I have about using the terminology with each other. Don't not unnecessarily put something on someone, especially a young woman coming into the ministry and her husband's just starting and they're this there, and now you're going to put this terminology that's going to put an expectation on her that is usually your expectation and not hers.
But here's my question: do we really know that that's what that person is doing when they say first lady? They just may say, "I'm respecting you as the woman that may be in a different position than I am." We don't really, sometimes we probably need to ask the person, "Why are you saying it?"
Yeah.
Am I saying it because I really respect you and I'm looking at you as a leading figure? Okay, or am I saying it because people over there said? Am I saying it because somebody told me to say it? We might just need to question and find out why they're saying it, rather than
That's relationship.
what they mean.
That's relationship. That defines
just ask them, because
but
if there's one or two people saying it in your congregation, that just may be all it is. Or it may be somebody from totally somewhere else that's saying it. And I kind of like what Ross said about it. Just may be, that's the only way I know how to give you some honor. You just, ask them why they're saying it and move it from there, rather than assuming that they're saying it because of what's in our head. Because for me, well, I'm not in that position anymore, so I don't have to worry about it. But because my husband is retired, but in the past, when people said it to me, I just took it as an honor and I just kept it moving. I didn't think nothing else about it.
I agree. Tanya Spencer has her hand up, and then Adney.
Yeah, I too, Roz. In my early 30s, I too had to learn to embrace the term first lady. But the person that called me that, I stopped. As Sarah said, I said, "Why do you call me first lady?" And he said, "Because I respect you as my minister's wife, and I want you to know that." It wasn't trying to be funny or anything like that. It was just he was sincere, and actually he came to us from another denomination, and the thing was is that that's what he learned, to respect the first lady as the minister's wife, and he wanted to show me honor, and not to say that I'm higher than any other woman. It's just that, hey, you're the minister's wife, you are my first lady, and I respect that, and I want you to know that. And that person, that was the first one that actually helped me to embrace that term.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tanya. I agree. Okay, Adney.
That's actually what I was going to say. We have to sometimes recognize and realize that people come from a different spiritual background. And if that's what they're accustomed to and they see the minister's wife, that's what they're going to see. I prefer to just call my minister wife just my minister's wife. I don't call her the first lady. That's just me, but I respect and honor her in many different ways. I think sometimes we get so caught up on the terminologies that we kind of miss the bigger picture as far as that. So that's something that I've heard several sisters say, and I'm like, okay, what is the main point of what you're saying? If she's called the first lady, okay, does it take anything off of me? No, because in the eyes of God, I'm a first lady, right? I'm one of his first ladies. So that's one of the things that I had to learn. It doesn't take anything and it doesn't give anything. What it is just like many of the women on here who are ministers' wives have said, it's the way of people honoring them. And I wanted to apologize, Sister Keyton, because I just didn't want you interrupted. And I was just trying to mute everybody out. So please forgive me if I kept muting you out, because it was honestly an accident. And then I wanted to thank you for the lesson, because you showed so many different firsts with our mother Eve. And even with the fact that she praised God in the birth of Seth. Like sometimes we miss that whole part. And then it also says that men started, praising God after Seth was born. So it tied something so powerful in. So I just thank you for that.
Okay, Miss Genevieve, I think you had your hand up. You wanted to say something? You got to
Yes.
There you go. And after that, Marilyn, you can come in after Miss Genevieve.
Thank you. I was looking at Philippians 2 and verse 3, and it says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves." I grew up in a denomination. I grew up in the Baptist church, and that's where I learned, the term first lady. But, when I obeyed the gospel, I understood that. Thankfully, the way the church is structured, we're all equal. And I know sometimes, coming out of a denomination, there are real teachable moments. And so therefore, what we as members of the church should do when we are approached with situations like that is to direct the person to God's word. Because when we look at the way the church is structured, it's not like that. And I think a perfect example is when Jesus washed the apostles' feet. He showed them that we're all servants. We're all servants. We're all on the same page. And therefore, we don't want to, like one of the sisters said, put more pressure on someone, expecting them to be something that we're really not willing to be ourselves.
Good thought. Good thought. Okay, Miss Marilyn.
Hey y'all.
Hey y'all.
Great lesson, Dr. Keyton. Just to address my point of view on the First Lady issue, I remember this lady saying to me, "If you're the First Lady, who does that make me?" I said, "That makes you your husband's First Lady." So I'm my husband. I come first in his life. And if he just happens to be the preacher, then yeah, I'm his first. That's who I am.
Fix it up, girl.
So yeah, to Jerry Graham, y'all, I'm the first lady. All right.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
But to just, we strive. I'm gonna say here in Mississippi, we strive to give honor where honor is due. That doesn't have anything. I'm not referring